Welcome to Power of the Tribe podcast. I'm John Connors, your host. I'm also the founder and head instructor at Connors Martial Arts in Norwood. It's March 20th, 2020. I figured we'd just do another podcast episode. Dan, what else can we do?
Yeah, during strange times.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people are home and maybe they want to listen to some information, help them pass the time other than, I don't know what else they're doing.
And if you're listening to this 6 months from now, and ideally this is all past, we are in the thick of the COVID-19 days. And I think we're maybe not the thick of it, but we're in maybe the height of things being unknown.
That's
like they say,
right?
I've heard, the greatest fear is a fear of the unknown. And that's, I think, what hovers over this whole conversation, right? It's like no one knows how bad it's going to get. No one knows how long it's going to last. No one knows how much their own safety is at risk or those of their loved ones. It's all unknown. And I think that's creating the bulk of the tension, or what's going to happen to businesses or your own job or the stock market or the world economy, like whatever you want to focus on. It all seems up in the air right now, and I think that's creating like an overall anxiety hanging over everybody.
I think it does, yeah. That creates a stress response more than anything if the future is unpredictable.
I was saying, even if we knew it was like the CDC, for example, could say, April 14th, this will be passed and everything will be back. We'll start opening businesses back up. If you had a date, I think everyone would all the tension would reduce, at least, where you'd say, okay, I have a date. I've got to make it till April 14th. But right now it's all up in the air. No one knows how long it's going to last. No one knows when it's going to
last. No one does, Dan. The experts don't even know.
Yeah.
They sort of disagree. So I think the expected outcomes, there's a wide range of expected outcomes. It could,
right.
Yeah, the number of people that may die and so forth, there's a really wide range. It's really it's impossible for us to know.
Right.
And we don't have any expertise. We're not epidemiologists, or even they don't all seem to agree. It's really weird times.
And then the personal level, like a lot of people, I imagine at the point that most of our listeners aren't that affected by the disease, and that most of our listeners won't know anyone that has it or have it themselves. But most of them will know someone that is nervous about their job. That's a big thing now, that especially the small businesses and people, anyone in service industry is just, and a lot of industries, I can't even name them all, just sort of unclear what's going to happen.
It's unclear. Yeah, it's scary times. Well, I figure, it's sort of the Stoic philosophy is to focus on what you can control. So I figure we can come in and do a podcast. We can talk about what I do know, Jiu Jitsu, these types of things.
Yeah,
and
this
and
isn't
maybe
going to be
give people
another.
That. Yeah.
I believe our last episode was it almost all? It was largely related to the virus. And
largely related to.
We actually are not going to do that this time. We're going to talk.
I don't think it's constructive. Other than, maybe it's just my personality. I'm optimistic. I think there's going to be some good things that come from it. I think the country and the world is going to be better prepared for the next pandemic.
It's a little irritating to me how unprepared the world was for this at the government level. I don't understand how there's a CDC that then says, well, what do we do for a pandemic? And sort of wings it. I'm like, what have you? And then you hear this, from higher level people, you hear, well, who could have predicted this? And it's like, well, I'd say about 80% of people could have predicted. You know what I mean?
I don't know.
Everyone's thought of pandemics. It's like, how do you not have a plan in place where you hit certain metrics and you have certain measures based on certain results? Just is amazing to me that everyone seems to be winging it.
Yeah, I don't know.
So
that's the way things tend to work. I guess I don't know.
To your point, maybe that'll be improved.
Yeah,
from here out, we'll all be a little safer.
Right.
And the other thing that I'd add is that I've always thought is try, because we can't always control this, but I always try not to worry about things that might happen. Because you know what I mean? We could worry for weeks now about things that never happen. You know, you could worry for weeks about losing your job and you don't lose your job, or you worry about for weeks or months about your health and you never get the thing. And so obviously easier said than done, but I try not to worry about all the bad things that might happen, because then they don't. And I look back over my life at how much time I've spent worrying about something that never happened. It's like, boy, that's a waste of energy.
It's very tricky. And then if you can't do something about a situation, then what's the sense of worrying too much about it? I guess you can only do what you can do. I mean, it's very tough times now, too. I feel like people are a little sensitive, so... you know, you have a great sense of humor. You're a very funny guy. I love that about you. It adds a ton of value to the podcast. But, you know, people might even be sensitive about that. They don't want anybody making any jokes about anything. I mean,
yeah, no. Even if it wasn't related to the virus, people like just when people are tense, they don't want to hear joking around.
Right, right.
You know, it's sort of like, why are you joking during these times?
Right.
And there's also this idea of
which is a shame, because joking relieves stress and pressure, right?
Yeah.
Like, so if you're all overstressed, you can crack a joke, gallows humor. That's what they call it, gallows humor, like the worst case scenario, and you use a little humor to lighten the psychological
right. And I think
load.
a lot of people in high stress jobs use a lot of humor as well. So
I think so. Yeah.
But I won't do it.
Well, here's what I should say, Dan, about the academy. So classes have been canceled for 1 week. It's very likely that we'll have to cancel them for 3 more weeks. So we'll be out a month. So, I mean, the academy provides the sole source of income for Rory, my son, for Coach Jesse McGillicott, and myself. So this is all we have. So I'm asking our members to stay with us and to share that burden with them. The plan I came up with, Dan, tell me what you think about this, is to give private lessons to everyone for that missing month. So everyone who stays on board with us, and hopefully you all will, because we need it, we'll give you a private lesson, and we'll do the private lesson in 2s, maybe 3s. So in other words, if I get a couple students, I give them a private lesson, or 3 students. 2 is better than me giving a private lesson one-on-one anyways, because then they can see what's happening. I think you've done private lessons, so you get that concept, right? And in that way, they're getting, a good share of value for their membership dues anyways.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of extra work for us, but that way we'll be sharing the burden, and that would be amazing if our students can do that for us. You know, I've already had some students already reach out to me right off the jump, saying that they're going to stand by us and not to worry, and it's very touching. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I'll remember those people forever, of course.
Yeah.
So
and for those that make use of the private lessons, those are super helpful. You know, super fun and helpful.
Yeah. And I'll start doing those as soon as possible. I don't know exactly when the safest, most prudent time to do it will be, but as soon as possible. And we'll schedule them at people's convenience, whatever time works for them. And we'll get through this. So that's my hope. So I think, Dan, that's all that I can do at this point. Right. What do you think?
Yeah.
What do you think about that plan?
It's great. I hadn't even thought of it. I thought, again, we all need to step up a little bit and not try to support businesses like yours and support and try to, order food from restaurants and order gift certificates from restaurants and just try to help out. You know what I mean?
I have a funny story. Should I tell you this story? It's a little personal, but I got a text from, of all people, Mr. Pat Browning. I know you have a little bit of grudge against him. No, I'm just kidding. Of course, he's the best. And it said something about his membership. And you know how you get a text message, you glance at your phone and you can see the first few words of it. You can glean the intent of the message. And it said something about his membership. And I was like, that son of a bitch is canceling on me. God damn it. And then I read the message, and he said not only is he not canceling, he would like me to charge him double just in case somebody else drops off and they can't pay their dues.
Look at Pat.
I literally teared up.
No, really?
I literally teared up. Yeah. I mean,
Pat. Making everyone look
I
bad
don't know
is how
why
I
he keeps
see it.
saying he's a jerk.
But he's just making everyone look bad with his kindness. Now,
Yeah. He wields
hope
that
you're happy
kindness.
now, Pat.
Yeah.
Hope you're happy making everyone look bad by being such
So
a
I
good
did the
dude.
whole emotional roller coaster with that. I went from like hating his guts to loving him. No, I wouldn't hate his guts.
And back.
He's the best. Yeah.
And now I hate him again.
Yeah, and other people have reached
Yeah,
out to me
just
too,
I
so
mean,
they're the best.
That's even more than I would have expected. Of
That's
course,
more.
but
Yeah, I
like-
don't
but-
expect that at all. That was amazing of him.
But then, just try to help whatever,
Yeah.
Try not. I've heard that too. Like, try not to get McDonald's and just try to get a local restaurant. Things like that. Like,
Oh, I see what you're
McDonald's
saying.
will be fine. Burger King will be fine. Like, try to, that's a pretty small sacrifice. To be like, instead of
That
going to
is.
Pizza Hut, go to the local pizza shop. Like,
Right.
and just try to.
Speaking
try
of
to do
pizza,
that.
I went to right here, Stashes in Norwood. I went there
Mm-hmm.
yesterday. I hadn't had pizza, Dan, in like a year. I don't know what it was. The last week or so, I've been eating super clean, and
That's good
and
because
suddenly I woke up and I was like, I need pizza. I don't know why. I don't know what the hell it was.
did you undo the last week of eating
So
clean?
I did a little workout, and then suddenly I was ravenous for pizza. So I went over there, pulled up in the parking lot, called the number, and I said, and they do a lot of business. And I said, yeah, 2 slices of pepperoni for pickup. And they said, okay, 2 minutes. And then I walked in there, bought it, ate. They have huge slices. I don't know if you've ever been
No.
there. Huge. Yeah. I like it. And I ate like 3/4 of the first slice in my car, drove home, ate the rest of it. I passed out on my couch, Dan. I woke up with like a Tijuana hangover.
Just from the pizza.
I think so. I woke up. I was like in a fog. I didn't know what was going on. I felt dehydrated. I felt hungover. I don't know. Maybe I'm just not. It was great going down, but I recovered quickly. I don't want to make this a negative story. I just felt like I needed it.
But you're also like one of the very few using this quarantine time to get more fit. I'm following
know,
what I
man.
think more people are doing. I haven't worked out, eating like a pig. Like I have to pull it back together.
Well, yeah, it's very hard with this uncertainty too, right? It,
Yeah.
it kind of robs you of your motivation. You feel like, what the hell am I working out for anyways?
Yeah,
If
exactly. Yeah,
the
there is
world's
that
going to
feeling,
end
right?
next
Yeah.
week. What does it matter
Like,
if
I'm
I
not
put a
going
little
out. I'm
inch
not
on my stomach?
socializing. I'm not. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's that just general drain. But I bet it would still be good for you to work, get rid of that like laziness. Like I feel like for a week being in quarantine, there's just like a general lazy feeling, sort
Yeah.
of like I'm like napping during the day and
Oh, right.
and just like then like napping again. You know what I mean? It'll be like I'm gonna nap. It's only 10 in the morning, but I'm gonna nap. Like I'm already ready for a nap. And then I don't feel like running or feel like it's good to shake that off in general, right?
Right. Everyone
like
says
you're-
binge on Netflix, but I don't even have the motivation for that. I watched the movie. I haven't watched a movie in a long time, Dan. Like something the Hollywood produces, because I'm an old fart, and they just don't make good movies
Really?
anymore.
It's like
So I watched
You,
a
like,
movie
go like this. to
called
the-
Knives Out. Did you see that movie?
No, it's in my queue though.
It's in your queue. It got a high 90s tomato, whatever the hell that is, rating. High 90s with the little popcorn, whatever the hell
Yeah.
that is. So I think it's critics and people.
I thought it was well received, right?
Oh, yeah. It's not good. I'm like, this is a high 90s movie?
Yeah.
I mean, it's
that
like,
happens sometimes. Yeah.
I think it's a comedy that's sort of situationally humorous. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Completely underwhelmed by that movie. Yeah.
It wasn't good.
I can't
Yeah,
say
I
it
have
was
some,
bad.
I have
It
some
just
movies
was like,
that are so beloved that I like dread saying how much I thought it was terrible.
oh, really? Like what?
Like Get Out, a horror movie.
Oh, I didn't watch
the
that.
whole.
Yeah,
But the whole world was like
No.
outraged that it didn't win Best Picture. That's how beloved. I'm literally not sure I met anyone in my life that didn't love the movie Get Out, and there's probably going to be fury about me saying this, but I'm
Well,
like,
I can
just thought,
pretty
like,
much
the general
guarantee you I'll
conceit-
never watch it. Yeah. So.
Well, I won't say any spoilers for those who didn't see it, but some of the main plot points I was watching, like, you must be kidding me.
Oh, they're just
that's what's
dopey?
happening
Yeah.
in this movie. Like,
Yeah.
like just staring, like almost stunned, like that is what's happening in this movie. Like that is the big reveal. You know, it's just like couldn't believe
Well, I
it.
feel that way
But everyone
too.
loved it so much, I had to stop saying that I thought it was
Right.
terrible.
I don't want to see those. Yeah. What is the one that just won the Academy Award? It's Parasite.
Yeah.
People are raving about it. I don't want to see it because I know I'm not going to like it.
I saw
And,
it.
Yeah.
It is okay.
It's okay.
There's
Right.
not much to hate about it. At least I would say.
Right.
You know, like I don't think you could be enraged by it. You know, like
Oh, no.
but
It's not
so it was
great,
all
right?
right. Yeah, it was okay. It was-
Yeah. I watched.
is this the cranky old man
It's the
section?
cranky
Like
old- You know what I did enjoy, and maybe it's because I'm a cranky old man. On Netflix, they had a series. I think it's 6 episodes of the Ottoman Empire, where they're trying to siege the city of Constantinople.
what's it called?
I think it's called
okay.
Ottoman Empire. Yeah, I thought that was really good.
And not a documentary, right?
Here's what they do, Dan. It's really, I like this model. They have high production drama, and then they intersperse that with, they'll interview a historian who'll come in and explain who the characters are and what a little bit what they're trying to do. So does that make sense?
Yeah,
It's like it's a
like a
break.
half, yeah.
Yeah, it's not even half. It's breaks in the action where they interview an historian. And so it allows you to follow the story really well. And then and there's so much production value involved. You just fall into the
Yeah,
story.
I'm not sure I've
anyways.
heard of that model.
They did the same thing with the Roman Empire, and I watched the first season was about Commodus and Marcus Aurelius. So it's Marcus Aurelius' son, and it was okay. It wasn't as good as Ottoman Empire. Part of it was the actor who was Commodus. He looked like one of these men's health and fitness guys. He was like,
Yeah.
he had like this modern physique, like, and I'm like, no way that guy looked like that.
Yeah.
So he was like a male model, and it was like it
Drew
didn't
you
make
out
any
of the
sense.
story.
Yeah, it didn't make any sense, but it was okay. And then the second season was about Caligula, and it's just kind of depressing. So then I lost interest in that. Yeah, I don't know.
But so you're trying to binge to make it through this, but you can't do it.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Well, what I did, Dan, is I came up with like what is the best advice I could give my jiu-jitsu students. So I kind of brainstormed.
In the absence
I wrote
of
down
being able to
19
come into the
different
academy.
different things, just in general, Dan. So it's like
But you
know,
can't you can't promise getting to all of them today.
we're not
though.
going to, Dan. We're not going to get close to getting all of them, but you know,
This is gold. The listeners love it when you give jiu-jitsu advice.
I think so because it's my expertise. So it's what I should be talking about. They're probably sitting there saying, "Will you shut up talking about the movies and the TV? You don't know what
You
you're
cranky
talking
old
about."
men.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Just give us some jujitsu and shut up and get out. That's what they probably want. Who knows?
So let's do it. Jiu-jitsu and shut up and get out.
What do you think? Maybe I'll start with the health stuff that I do that I think because guys say to me, you know, how can I get more fit for jiu-jitsu? How can I get stronger for jiu-jitsu? How can I get better at jiu-jitsu? And I think one of the ways they can get better is just get healthier.
Sure.
So maybe I'll talk about some of those things. So one of the things I have been doing, Dan, for about 6 months now is people have seen this Oura ring that I wear.
Right.
So it's a little, I don't know, I think it's a little expensive. I think I paid $300 or $400 for the ring. It's just one-time expense. Then I don't think there's any monthly charges. But there's an app, and it tracks my sleep and my recovery a little bit. And it's improved my sleep. And I think that's important for health and recovery.
Now, how did it improve your sleep? Like, because you got
Right.
feedback.
I got feedback. I don't know if it's my personality. I don't know if people are different. But when I get feedback, that is really helpful in me changing my behavior and getting better
That's
habits.
what we've been doing. That's why we've been getting on the scale.
Yeah.
To be like, because you can just directly see, I've been eating like a pig and it's going up.
Right.
You know,
That's
I've sort of been shocked at how now, for the first time in my life, I know roughly what's going to happen with my
Before
weight.
you step on the scale, you have a good
I'm
sense
like,
of where
I sort
you
of
are.
know.
Yeah.
I know when I can bring it down 2-3 pounds. I know, with occasionally you're surprised, but generally it's like I know what's been happening with my weight, and it helps me. It helps me control it. Just to be like, I know the effects of what of eating this or eating that. So I imagine with this ring, you get your feedback of like what's going to interrupt your sleep and what's not, and you keep track of it. You become mindful of it.
And then if I have a particularly poor night of sleep, it underscores it. So then I realize, man, I better make sure I have a good night's sleep the next 2 nights.
Right.
So that's very simple, but I think that wouldn't happen in the past.
And how do you spell? What kind of ring is this?
That's a great question, Dan. Oura. Oura is how I pronounce it. Yeah. I don't know where they came up with the name. It's probably not the best name, like you said, because it's hard to understand how you even spell it when you say it.
Now, how much do you believe what it's telling you?
I think it's pretty accurate. Yeah. Yeah,
like,
definitely.
You know, if it like sort of coincides, like if it says you had a bad night's sleep, you're like,
right.
Yeah, I did.
It shows you when you wake up during the night, when you have REM sleep, when you have deep sleep, and when you have sort of, I guess, medium sleep or light sleep, I think they call it. Yeah. You know, sometimes you wake up in the middle of the night and you have to go to the bathroom or something. It's, whatever, you happen to be up a little bit longer than usual, it completely records all of that. So it's measuring.
Because I could see if you woke up and you said the ring never knew. Then you wouldn't trust it.
It's very accurate, I think. It measures your body temperature, and which is important for sleeping. What I found out was I need to be cooler than I had been. So if I just started cooling my room down more, I got better sleep.
Just right there is feedback that I
feedback
didn't really think
helpful.
that much about. Right?
Yeah. And then it measures your resting heart rate while you sleep. So if you notice that after a couple of days, gee, it's a little bit higher than usual, then maybe you think, you know, maybe I'm infected with something. You know how they say even with this COVID-19, you can be infected for days before you show symptoms. So I think some of these things can be like a canary in a coal mine, give you a little bit of insight. Something might be up, you know. So I think that's good. And then it tells you how much REM sleep you had, how much deep sleep, and how much light sleep. And apparently, you know, you need a mixture of all of that stuff. So my sleep has improved. You know what? Yeah. And I even had like a divot in my bed. You know how you get your bed is a little old, you get a divot in it. And it prompted me to finally fix the divot. So I fixed my bed, and lo and behold, I slept a little bit better. Yeah.
And again, sleeping's like breathing, which are two things you pay attention to. And they're sort of, anyone knows that what is there that's important in your life? Sleeping, breathing, eating, like on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And everyone pays attention to eating, and no one pays attention to sleeping or breathing.
Yeah. That's a very good point.
Those are two things that you pay attention to.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, you can go most of us could go a very long time without eating. You can only go something like 72 hours without sleeping, I think, and it can be fatal. And then breathing, you can go 3 or 4 minutes maybe without breathing. So, yeah, which is another good point. So the breathing thing I do is, I guess it's not completely breathing, but I do the Wim Hof method. I try to do it 20 minutes a day. You know, I'm not a scientist, but the claims are it improves the function of your immune system and it improves the function of your autonomic nervous system. And I believe it. I
now, an important thing here is that I think for those people who've heard of Wim Hof method, that what jumps to mind is jumping in freezing water. And you don't even do that part of it.
I don't do that part of it. So here's my take on it, Dan. He has a 3-pronged thing. I think he has a free course online. So Wim is W-I-M, Hof is H-O-F. So he does breathing, cold, and commitment is what he calls it. Those are the 3 cornerstones of his program, his process. I think the cold water stuff is good therapy, but I think it's stressful. So, in other words, what I'll often do is I'll do a cold shower at the end of my shower unless I feel that I'm under a little bit of stress. So if I feel like I'm slightly run down or if I didn't sleep good, I'm like, you know what, I probably don't need that extra stress, so I don't do it. But the breathing aspect of it, I don't find stressful at all. And I breathe very naturally, in a very relaxed fashion in this 20-minute process. Maybe I'll do I think I did a little tutorial on it, but maybe I'll do a video of it, of my version of Wim Hof, which is serving me really well. So, yeah, that's another thing I do to help my health. So Wim Hof, the Oura ring. I also measure my HRV every morning. So this is a 2.5 minute snapshot. So I have a heart monitor on.
Is heart rate variability.
Heart rate variability. And what it's trying to tell you is how stressed your system is, your cardiovascular system. And like you always ask me, yeah, but is that real?
I'm a skeptic for these
I think
things.
it's good to be skeptical.
I'm still eyeing the Oura ring.
Definitely.
Suspiciously.
So I mean, the Oura ring, maybe that's 2 minutes. I check it in the morning. The HRV is 2.5 minutes. So I'm spending 5 minutes a day getting some
Right. It's not
data.
a commitment.
It's not that hard, right?
Yeah.
And when I get that information, I can kind of feel where, and then just your general subjective nature, how do you feel?
And I would also say, if you tried looking at your HRV or the data from an Oura ring over a period and you felt like it wasn't doing anything, there's still no harm done, right? You could say, I'm not really, it's sort of like if someone got on the scale every day and were like, this just isn't doing it for me. Like anything else, if it's not doing it for you, it's no harm done. You can stop
I think
it.
you made a good point that the collecting of the data over a period of time is when the data becomes more valuable.
Right.
So then if you see things starting to creep into a negative direction, it'll be called to your attention and you can make changes, right? I think it's so easy for bad health habits to creep in and suddenly you're 30 pounds overweight and it's happened like an ounce at a time and like you didn't even notice it happening, you know? And I mean, in this COVID-19 pandemic we're in now, the people who are most vulnerable are the elderly and the people who have compromised respiratory systems and cardiovascular system too. I think if you have high blood pressure, you're at greater risk. So a lot of us can do things to mitigate that blood pressure, you know, some of these health things.
And that's to your
Not
point about
everybody.
checking this data over time as opposed to, measuring it twice and saying, I don't really see the benefit of this, for 2 days,
Right. It starts
maybe
to
that's
become
obvious,
valuable
but
when you have weeks and months of data.
Yeah.
Like from the Oura ring, I can track they give you a sleep score. So they base that score on how much sleep you had, what balance of REM, light, and deep sleep you had, how many interruptions, all these different things. And they give you a score, and I can track. And essentially my score has trended upward. So since I got the thing, my sleep has improved. So I think we can infer from that my health has probably improved. It's been a benefit to my health, you know?
And even for the scale, I forgot about this, but correct me if I'm wrong. You probably remember this. I feel like when I first started just weighing myself for like 2-3 weeks, I was like, this seems nothing's happening. Like I'm eating healthy and it's not really affecting anything. And it was frustrating. Like I don't know how that makes sense, why it would then not do anything and now it does, but you could think of reasons, right? Like the body adjusts.
The body adjusts, yeah.
But there was periods where, again, if I did it for 3 days, even a scale, which everyone can understand more intuitively than heart rate variability. If I did it for 3-4 days, I'd be like, I'm not getting any useful information out of this. It's not helping me. My weight's not going down, and I'd stop. So same idea with this. I would say if you're going to try it, hang in a little while.
Definitely.
And get a pattern over time.
Now, the other recovery system I use, Dan, is a system called the Kaatsu. And it's a blood flow restriction system. So
is this new to me? I don't know this.
I probably haven't discussed it with you because it's a little techie and it's a little not interesting. But Peter Zeiger turned me on to this. So Peter is a swim coach, and he had been using it with his athletes for some time and getting really outstanding positive results. So what does that mean? I think when you're doing something like track and field and swimming, the sports have so few variables that if you do a different protocol and you get a 5% improvement immediately,
it's a big change.
It's a big, big deal. So it's essentially telling you whatever we just did, that really works. It's much harder in something like Jiu Jitsu or MMA fighting where there's so many variables. It's hard to know what protocol is improving an athlete and what protocol is not. In the strength and conditioning part, I think, especially, right? Like, isn't it, it's almost a cliche now where some athlete rises through the ranks. Some MMA fighter, UFC fighter, he rises through the ranks, becomes champion, and whoever his strength and conditioning coach happens to be is now the new genius. Like, this guy's got it all figured out. And he might not. It might be this guy's just a terrific fighter, and he would have thrived under almost any strength and conditioning system. And then something happens where that guy doesn't do so well, and now that strength and conditioning coach falls out of favor. And that might not be fair either.
Right? They seem to cycle through.
Yeah, that might not be fair.
Or you hear names that are huge 5 years ago that you don't hear the name
You don't hear them anymore. So it's very tricky.
So this is Kaatsu. How do you spell that one?
You spell that, Dan.
I just figure people might want to Google it.
I think so. Kaatsu. Kaatsu. And so I bought a device, a Kaatsu device. It's a blood flow restriction device for $900. Okay? A little pricier. That's a one-time fee of $900. But my son and I can both use it. And
what's it do?
So they have, it's almost like when you get your blood pressure taken, you have cuffs for your arms, like up near your shoulders, and it's a tiny little digital device like this, and it basically cycles through essentially 3 different levels where it's restricting your blood flow a little bit and then releasing it, and then restricts it again and releases it, and it has its own protocol. I can't even, it wouldn't even be worth my time explaining it to you, other than if I do a round on my arms, it takes maybe 18 minutes to do it.
And you can do this like
just sitting there
on the couch eating double
dinner.
stuffs?
Yeah. Watching TV, watching Ottoman Empire, and just throw it on at night. 18 minutes.
It's like the dream workout thing, right?
A little bit.
Get benefit while watching TV.
They also have ones for your thighs. So, some days I'll do my thighs, some days I'll do my arms. And it takes the same amount of time. And it's supposed to, I'm not making these claims. This is what I've heard. This is the claims I think they're making. It stimulates a release of growth hormone naturally. I don't know exactly why. And it's supposed to improve like the elasticity of your cardiovascular system because you're giving it minor stresses like this. You know what I mean? So I don't know.
And Peter Zeiger saw, what did he see? Increase in times for his
swimmers? He saw dramatic performance and dramatic recovery in his athletes.
So the proof's in the...
In our subjective experience is it works. So
do you feel different at all, or you know what I mean? Or
here's what I do, Dan. When before I got the system and before I started using the system, when I would wake up in the morning and measure my heart rate variability, that HRV, that gives you a score from 1 to 10. And I would get across the board, you know what I mean? Mostly somewhere in the middle, mostly 7 or 8, mostly 7, exactly. Occasionally you would get a 1, which means don't do anything that day. And sometimes you get a 9, and very rarely I would get a 10. That means, wow, you're just ready to go today. When I started using the Kaatsu, Peter was kind enough, he's such a wonderful guy, he would come to the academy with the system, and he would run through, whatever, 18, 20 minutes, whatever it was on me. And that was so nice of him to do that. The next day, I would almost always score a 10 on the HRV. I mean, I don't know. Is that a coincidence? Maybe. I mean, it's not statistically significant, perhaps, but it feels like it. And my son says he feels recovered better. So I don't know.
So what does it? It helps with cardiovascular. It helps with recovery.
Helps with recovery. Helps with cardiovascular. May help you sort of like process whatever waste products you have from working out. Supposedly improves the elasticity of your cardiovascular system that makes you just healthier. I don't know, but we've been using it, and it feels like it works. It feels good. I mean,
is this related at all to that thing that they used to like put on your stomach and just shake you? You know what I mean? Like from the 50s. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Those black and white, like you just see a big guy and that thing would be shaking his stomach.
I don't know what the hell that was, right?
Yeah, you don't see that. I don't see too many of those.
You don't see those
on
so
sale.
much anymore.
You should get one for the gym.
But that's what I use. So I'm giving everybody my secrets, my health secrets.
Right. Everyone's going to get these things and start
they're
giving
going to
you
leave me
real
in the
problems
dust.
on the mat.
know?
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing I wanted to talk about, Dan. Like a lot of times people ask me, what technique should I be doing? How can I get better? And for a lot of jiu-jitsu students, especially the white belts and blue belts, if they just take their worst mistake off the table, they'll get like 15 or 20% better immediately. They don't even have to learn anything. Just like they have a massive hole in their boat, and instead of getting a new motor, all you got to do is fill that hole in, and you're going to be so much better off than you were.
Right. Or to keep the metaphor, instead of like, what are all the things I can fix on this boat? Be like,
Right.
well, you've got a leak right there.
You got you got a lot of
Yeah.
little leaks, and you got a big hole. Let's start with the big hole.
Yeah.
And so
So the headline there is how to get 15% better immediately.
how to
in
get
jiu-jitsu.
immediately 15% better.
Yeah.
Let me give an example, Dan. It might be a white belt, and he's trying to pass the guard. I think jiu-jitsu players will understand this. And they don't understand the concept well enough of getting that underhook, that far side underhook, so they can eventually pin their opponent. They kind of don't get that. And if they don't understand that, they're going to be successful at a much lower rate than they otherwise would be. So if they just start understanding the importance of that far side underhook, bam, they're 15 to 20% better than they used to be. Or it could be from the bottom, just, what do they call that? That rotisserie chicken, just keeping their knees up close to their chest when they're defending their guard. They're going to be way better than they would be otherwise. I vaguely remember an anecdote back when I think I was a brown belt back in Dedham. We trained, and you were there, of course, and we trained with Steve Whittier of Straight Blast. And Steve was talking about doing that. Like, just focus on keeping your knees up to your chest. And Steve will correct me if I'm wrong. I don't mind being wrong. I'm wrong all the time. But he said that once I started doing that, suddenly it was so hard to pass my guard. He was like, God damn it. Once you just started keeping your knees high, it wasn't like it was easy to pass before, but then he goes, it got really hard to pass your guard with that one simple idea. So something like
So you're
that.
saying
for a lot of
even
people.
maybe higher level belts could
Maybe, yeah.
make a big leap forward with
Yeah.
just plugging whatever. They might have a more specific hole, but
Right. And then the same on the health side. If you just start, if everybody ate just non-processed whole natural foods, if they just ate some version of meat, leaves, and vegetables, this type of thing, wow, they would be way healthier. But we know it's hard to do.
right.
As a Oreo addict,
You're saying go to single, go stop the triple stuff, go back to double stuff.
Or if you just take your worst offender off the table, let's say you drink Coca-Cola all the time, or soda, or whatever you want to call it. If you can just say, you know what, I'm going to take that off.
It's one thing.
One thing, your worst thing, the biggest hole in your boat, it's going to have an effect, a positive effect. It's going to make a difference. You don't have to go 100% clean eating. That's probably too hard, especially right now when we're all sheltering at home. What are you going to do? You got to enjoy yourself a little bit.
That's a good idea. It applies to a lot of things, right? Where you
I
go,
think
what is
so.
the worst thing I'm doing? Maybe even your job, right? Like, what is my biggest weakness?
Yeah.
The one thing, if I had to point at it.
And that ends
Just
up being
find
the
it, man.
lowest hanging fruit, the simplest thing for you to attack, and it'll make a difference. If somebody's drinking soda and they stop drinking soda, man, that's got to be the best thing for their health they could possibly do. And even, not to get obnoxious, even juices, fruit juice,
Right.
they're not good, especially the processed ones. They're really not healthy for you. So if you went from soda to fruit juice, and then in the fruit juice you started cutting it with water and thinning it out gradually, that would probably make a big effect on your health.
But
in
it's a great
positive way.
idea to just, because if we sit here on here, and before we said, at least for me, said, well, during the week I'm eating completely clean, although I haven't been lately, but
Yeah.
I'm sure people are like, well, I'm not going to do that. But then
It's
you
too
end
hard,
up doing
yeah.
nothing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or like,
Yeah.
or take Wim Hof. I was thinking if you're people, we know people that are like, I cut a hole in the ice and I submerge myself
I'm not
in the
doing that,
lake.
yeah.
And there's people like, well, I'm not doing that. Or even the cold showers, which we
Right.
said, right? They're like, well, I'm not blasting myself in a cold shower. It's like, yeah, but can you do the breathing? Or, there's a way to like, don't if there's something you're not willing to do, I think people they throw the whole thing out, right? It's like, well, I can't deal with this.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different variations of that I think are probably really helpful. Like with eating, saying, I'm just going to stop the double stuffs and see where that goes.
Yeah.
Or like, I'll just stop my soda, or I'll just stop this one thing.
And for a lot of jiu-jitsu athletes who are, they're regular people, they have jobs and families and kids and everything. If they're carrying a significant belly, like if their waist is a significant size, it so impedes their movement and what they can do that if they can just reduce their belly a little bit, their jiu-jitsu is going to get better immediately, especially when they're on their back, on the bottom part of the game. I mean, if I was on my back and I attached, some 30-pound bag of something to my stomach, my whole game is going to be screwed up. It's going to make it so much more difficult. And
for technique, probably every jiu-jitsu player listening could take a second and think, what is a big hole that I can fix? Yeah. And if they don't know how, they could ask the coach, right? Like, here's one thing I want to, this seems to be my biggest hole. How do I fix it? Or could even ask someone, what's their biggest hole? If they don't know what that is, right? Go, what do you see as a big hole?
And I'm just saying that, like, a lot of people would be just reduce your waist size.
Yeah.
Doing that, you're going to get better at jiu-jitsu. Just that.
Yeah.
And like a lot of people want to talk about strength and conditioning, and especially strength. 99% of people are strong enough for jiu-jitsu. They don't really need to be. If they get stronger, great, but they don't really need to be stronger. So I like to tell the new students, don't worry about that. And plus, they want to make the technique do the work, not their strength. Being super strong almost works against you in the beginning.
There seems to be very, very few people think of how many people you've rolled with over the years that you feel like this person's just too weak.
No.
It's almost never.
Almost never. No.
You have to be literally 100 pounds over someone, and then you feel it. But
and I think I mentioned Dana Sharpton maybe a couple of episodes ago, and what I said about him was I think he's a black belt at being a white belt. And what I meant about that is when he's in class, he's just trying to get the jiu-jitsu to work and trying to find out what jiu-jitsu works. And he's not like a particularly overpowering guy, but he's getting better very quickly because of that. You know what I mean? He doesn't he probably has good mobility, but he doesn't have, I would say, some clearly outstanding physical characteristic that's helping him succeed, which is, so
you're saying for people, especially starting out, or maybe even if you're not just starting out, don't worry about your strength, but worry about what? Conditioning?
No,
maybe?
Not conditioning. Worry about the technical solutions to the problems. Like, look at jiu-jitsu as a problem that requires a technical solution. Find the technical solution. So if you do that and you do your jiu-jitsu, you're going to get the strength that you need, and you're going to pretty much get the conditioning that you need. I mean, Garry Tonon is a very successful mixed martial artist. He's also super successful grappler, ADCC grappler. And in an interview I read, he said he does no strength and conditioning. All he does is the arts. He practices kickboxing, practices MMA, practices wrestling, practices his grappling jiu-jitsu, and that gets him in the condition he needs to get. I mean, that's sort of the program that Rory and I are doing. The only caveat I would say for the regular folks out there is what they should worry about is mobility work. So most average adults have hips that are too stiff, shoulders, thoracic situation, their thoracic vertebrae is too tight, and probably their lumbar area, Dan, is too loose. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah. I learned this when I was reading the Supple Leopard, your favorite book. No, the Supple Leopard, where we want to have mobility in our hips, but we want to have relative stiffness in our lumbar area. And when our hips get tight, we steal mobility from the lumbar area, which starts causing all kinds of back issues and back problems. Then if you get a little bit of a belly too, you can start throwing your back out, and it's just a nightmare,
If you want to address this, what's a really quick, we're about out of time, but the Supple Leopard, has that?
Supple Leopard is a great book. But all I started doing, Dan, to improve my mobility of my hips and my ankles is, well, he says in the book that you should be able to have both feet flat on the floor and squat all the way down and essentially be comfortable doing that. And you should be able to do it with your feet like a fist width apart from each other, not way out and feet parallel, toes pointing forward, not toes pointing way out like so. So what I would do for about a year or so is when I made my coffee in the morning, I would stand in my kitchen doorway in the door jamb sort of, and I would hold on to the door and I would have my feet flat and start to squat down and kind of hang out there just for a few minutes a day while my coffee was being made. And it takes like 4 minutes for my coffee in the French press to become coffee. So those 4 minutes, that's what I would do. And over time, I got to the point where now I can squat all the way down with my feet flat on the floor. And yeah, I think it helps my back. Then I also, to complement, to add to the stiffness, is I just do planks on my elbows, like in a push-up position, with my spine straight, and I just squeeze my core for about 20, 30 seconds as hard as I can squeeze it. I don't put any weights on my back. It's the most unremarkable looking exercise possible, but my back's never felt so good. I don't have, it just feels great. It really works.
Right.
So those simple things, 4 minutes a day, try to improve your hip mobility and stiffen your lumbar area. Stop drinking soda, reduce your waist size a little bit. Those little things like that are going to make you better at jiu-jitsu and make your health better, everything else.
Right.
So I think we're coming up to the end. How do you think we did?
Good. I think there's a lot more jiu-jitsu.
There's a lot of jiu-jitsu stuff on here we didn't get to, but I figured it was best just to start with the basic health stuff.
Basic health, and then next time...
in this COVID-19 situation, if your general health is better, you're safer, you're protected, right?
Yeah.
They're hoping. I was listening to this one doctor saying maybe people will stop smoking cigarettes, like because of this threat, and that could save.
That alone will save.
It could save a lot of lives. So if you happen to be smoking cigarettes out there, maybe make this as an opportunity to cut back and quit. Because if you quit completely, your lungs heal themselves, is my understanding.
Yeah.
That would be an amazing opportunity for the smokers out there. So we're going to get this out there as soon as possible for you folks. Like we said, today's March 20th, Friday.
Try to stay optimistic. Hopefully we'll be on in a week with more good news.
Right. And my students...
There is good news coming out there. There's a cure that helps the symptoms being developed in Japan right now. Legit. Fujifilm, of all companies, if you wanted to try to Google it out there, like who made it.
I also heard that
Fujifilm
malaria medicine might work too.
Yeah.
The chloroquine.
So we're working on it. We'll get to the other side.
Yeah, we're going to get through this. So, hang in there tough. And my students, you're going to get private lessons for this month.
Take advantage of it.
Yeah. And let's all hang together. Power of the tribe. That's how we're going to get through this for sure. And we'll talk to you guys soon. Take care.